And now, Deborah Kobylt live.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Deborah Kobylt Live. And joining me today is Sheri Strobaugh. Thanks for being here, Sheri.
Thank you for having me.
You've got quite a story that we're going to be telling all of our viewers and listeners. You are the author of My Birth Dad Was a Righteous Brother. Wow. And imagine, everybody, if you're adopted and you know throughout your life that you're adopted, but you're curious and you want to know who dad is, right? And then you find out that he's the very person that you've been listening to on the radio. That's got to be incredible, Sheri. What was that like for you?
It was very incredible. I remember the moment that I clicked on his picture um, when I was trying to figure out who he was. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. That was me without makeup. Literally, I knew he was my dad. And then realizing all of the songs was just crazy. I mean, Unchained Melody, everybody loved that one, and then you cry to it, and it's like so romantic. And the one that really stood out for me though is it was the Rock and Roll Heaven, and it was popular in 1974, and I was about 16 years old, and there was a point when he sang "Spotlight Waiting," no matter who you are, and I would cry every time,
Wow.
hands down. And my girlfriends thought I was nuts, and I never understood it until I found out who I was.
So you're in high school, all throughout grade school. You were saying to your adoptive parents, whom you got along with just great, right? You were saying,
Yeah.
I want
Oh,
to find out who my biological parents were. How did they feel about that?
oh, they did not like the idea at all. I
Oh,
mentioned it a few times, and my mom said it would just be like opening up a can of worms. And I thought, well, no, no, not really. And but she was not able to have children, and so I think that she just didn't want anybody to share me. She just wanted me for herself, and I
that's
understand. So I just didn't search.
that's got to be a little bit intimidating, though, right? I mean, y- she couldn't have her own child, so she adopted you and loved you with all her heart, and
Yeah.
your adoptive dad too, right? What was it like growing up? You said you grew up in Orange County,
Yep.
California. What was your upbringing like with them?
Oh, it was great. It was middle class. My dad was a corporate attorney. My mom was a housewife slash interior designer. I just remember playing down the street, running in the streets till dark, playing Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman and all the fun things you do. And I remember like trying to fly on our Santa Ana wind days. But I just had a completely normal, wonderful childhood and had parents that I absolutely adored.
Right. And you said you go to Disneyland a lot and Knott's Berry and just have a, just sort of an idyllic childhood that a lot of us read about, right?
Yeah, and or I went. We go all the time, and Corona del Mar was my very favorite beach, and it's just learned to swim when I was 2, and my mom would literally make me come out of the ocean when my lips were blue, and I had to wait until they turned pink before I could go back in again. So yeah, I had a great childhood.
Were you musical and artistic? Because I know you're a writer. That is your profession. This isn't your only book.
Yeah.
Were you a musical kid or were you
Yeah.
tell me about what you were like?
Okay. I took piano lessons for 6 years. Loved the piano. Taught myself guitar. I used to sing. I was in the concert choir at school, but I just never like when they had the madrigal tryouts. Those are like the top 12 singers of the high school, and I was just so nervous about that. And I think back like, wow, if I knew Bobby Hatfield was my dad, I might not be so nervous. I might just have actually made it, right? But no, so the fact that I didn't know who I was, I was definitely shy. And but it's all good. It's just I would have been in drama class, but I was too shy. It's just it's just life.
Maybe you would have been too intimidated, right? Thinking I'll never be as good as he is. I mean, you never really know,
Oh,
right?
never thought about that, but that's for sure. I don't think anybody can beat Bobby Hatfield's voice.
So you're in high school, and what kind of music were you listening to? Were you listening to Bobby Hatfield and the Righteous
Uh,
Brothers, clearly having no idea that was your dad?
No, I did love Rock and Roll Heaven, and but no, I listened to Creedence Clearwater. David Bowie was my absolute favorite, over and above everybody. Um,
Hmm.
I listened to Jethro Tull, just all the wonderful '70s music was incredible. And then, of course, I loved, You've Lost That Love and Feeling, and I had no idea what a feeling I would be coming across in the years ahead. Because boy, it's very it's just kind of crazy. I still think about it, and it's like, wow, I just wish I met him. I think he would have loved me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So you decide to go on the journey to find out who are your biological parents, only to learn that they had you very, very young in life. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. They actually were each 17 years old, seniors in high school, and I'm told that they went to their parents and say, "Hey, we're having a baby. We need to get married and live happily ever after." And the parents were like, "No, you're underage, and you will not be doing that." So off my birth mom went to a place in Los Angeles, and then she had me there, and that was about the end of that. And she did not talk about it ever again. My birth dad Bobby did. He and like when I met Bill Medley and spoke to him, he said that he knew about me, but he just assumed that I went off to live with my birth mom. He had no idea that I was adopted out. So
Oh,
that was
wow,
the
that's incredible, right? Because and let's tell everybody who Bill is. He's the other half of the
oh,
Righteous Brothers, right? And you
yeah.
never met your dad, but Bill became
Oh,
someone who was very close to you, right? To help you understand who dad was, right? Tell us about that.
yeah. Oh, Bill was wonderful. He the first time we talked for about a half an hour, and he just wanted to know every single thing about me, and just kept laughing, saying, "Yeah, we would talk about you after we had a few beers in us." Bobby would open up a little bit, so I thought that was cool that he did tell his close friends about me. But Bill has kept in touch with me for 14 years. He's been wonderful. He just called me like 6 months ago, just checking on me. He says, "Where have you been? You haven't been to my concerts." And it's like, well, I quite honestly is because Bucky Hurd was the replacement of my dad. And I just didn't know how I'd feel, going there and seeing, somebody else sing his songs. But actually, Bucky is like an incredible guy. And he actually said that he doesn't even change a note the way Bobby sang it. He sings it exactly like him as a homage. Is that how you say it? But
Yeah.
he just loved and respected my dad so much so it was incredible. It was like, now I'm if they ever get back in concert over this pandemic, I'm going to be right there watching them again.
I'll bet you will. Now, you said that
Yeah.
your birth dad thought that your birth mom had you and raised you, right? That's pretty amazing.
Well,
Now, did
yeah.
is that true?
Yeah. Well, Bill Medley thought that he just assumed that I was raised by my birth mom.
Now, didn't your birth grandma um, offer to raise you, and then your birth mom said no, and then they decided to
Yeah.
give you up for
Yeah.
adoption? Is that
Yeah. I
correct?
did find out. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I did find that out.
That's part of fate, though, isn't it? Right? Because I suppose you could have been raised by your birth mom and your birth grandma, but it wasn't to
Mm-hmm.
be. And in fact, you were raised by two wonderful, wonderful people who loved having you in their lives, and the joy that you brought your adoptive parents. That's pretty amazing. You were very close to them as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My dad is the smartest man I've ever met in my entire life. And we would play the dictionary game. So what you do is you just open up a dictionary and not look at it, and then you'd point to it. And then he'd have to spell it. And then that was 1 point. And for 2 points, he'd have to give me the definition. So we played that all the time. He was very, very learned, huge book reader. I had the smallest TV in the entire neighborhood my whole life because he liked to read. But yeah, he and I got along beautifully. He was just a wonderful man, just so
And your
sweet.
mom, your adoptive mom?
Oh, my mom's just adorable. She was just a multi-talented gal. Her interior decorating skills were incredible. All my friends that had come over were like, wow, this is your house. I mean, the insides were just gorgeous. And we'd love to shop together. My mom and grandma and me, we'd go to South Coast Plaza, and that's where we'd hang out. That'd be like our weekend thing. She was just a lovely, lovely lady. And she ended up passing away a few years ago. She lived with me, and she suffered Alzheimer's. And that's a terrible, terrible, terrible disease. And I don't wish that on anybody, not even my worst enemy. But
It's,
she,
go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
No, I just said she'd had a wonderful life. She went downhill after my dad died a few years before her, and now they're together. So life is good, you know. They're happy, they're dancing, they're doing everything they want, and I miss them terribly, but I'm so happy they're together.
So your adoptive parents are no longer here, and your biological dad you never got to meet, but you did meet your biological mom. Tell me what that was like, because she didn't tell anyone about you, including the children that she had after you, right?
Yeah, she just I think the whole thing devastated her, you know, and I think I just feel, you know, really bad that she had to keep a secret, but that's how it was back then.
Yeah.
And when I met her, she was nervous and worried that it was going to get out, that, you know, that she had a daughter out of wedlock, and, you know, how bad of her. And I just thanked her for having me. I said, I'm just so glad you have me. And I told her about my parents and my family and my friends and how I grew up. And I just, you know, I just told her that I couldn't be happier. And I think she felt a lot better after we met. But she just, you know, we're not having a relationship. She's just, as you said, never told anybody. And it's too bad. It's really too bad. But I think if I didn't look quite so much like Bobby Hatfield, it might be a different story. But it is what it is, right?
On your mom's side, you have two half siblings. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do.
And on Bobby's side, how many children? How many half siblings? Four.
There's 4 half siblings. Three boys and a girl.
You are related to 6 half siblings, 2 from mom, 4 from dad. And dad's side, they didn't all really receive you so well, right? I think one of them did. Could you tell us about that story, what that must have felt like? Because it's raw enough to reach out and look for these people. And then you learn that you have siblings you didn't know about. Like, the whole thing has got to really do a real mind trick on you, right?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely does a mind trip. My husband actually contacted Bobby Jr., the oldest of the 4, because I was not gonna be rejected. I said, nope, not doing it. I mean, he had to call my birth mom, he had to call my half brother, but he was very nice. Bobby Jr. was very nice, but he lives his own little life with his little family, and I met him, and they were very kind, but I knew that we would not continue a relationship. He hooked me up with Kaylin, and he's the second oldest child, excuse me, from the first marriage with Bobby and Joy's kids. But anyway, Kaylin and I hit it off beautifully. We were like frickin' frack, and I flew down there several times, and we just got to know each other. And then he called my Aunt Jeannie, who is Bobby's, my birth dad's brother's wife. So the sister-in-law, and she's like an angel on earth. She is the best thing that's happened to me on this birth family thing. I mean, she's just absolutely incredible. And then the younger two siblings, they never really wanted to have a relationship, and I'm totally fine with that. They grew up their entire lives without me. And, you know, maybe someday they'll say, wow, maybe I do want to hang out with Sheri, because I got a great family. Let me tell you, I've got kids and grandkids and friends and 6 acres they could romp around, and you know, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm just going to live my life and be the best person that I could be.
And it's complete. You know where you come from now. Let's talk a little bit about your life now. How many children do you have? And you have grandchildren. Talk to me about that.
Okay. I have 3 grown children. I have a daughter that passed away when she was 4.5, but I have 3 living children. My oldest is 39, His name's Brandon, and he's beautiful, and he has a beautiful daughter named JoJo. She's 3 years old, and then he is living with a beautiful woman with two other little daughters. So they're mine too now. And then my my middle child is Sarah, and she's gorgeous. She has 4 children and a beautiful husband, and they only live like 5 minutes away. So I'm very lucky that, and all my kids live close to me. So we see each
Right.
other
And
quite often.
you're no longer down in Orange County, California. You moved up to Seattle, correct? The Seattle area?
Yeah, we moved up there in about 1984. My daughter was 3 months old at the time. And we moved up to Washington because we wanted to buy a house, and the schools were good up here. And yeah, it's been great. It's been a great life up here. I have to run to the sun, of course, every few months. But other than that, I enjoy it up here.
Especially these days, right? With the snowstorm that you just got hit with, but it
Yeah.
wasn't so bad.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I'm going to ask you this. I've interviewed many people who've written their books or documentary about being adopted. Did you always feel that something was, I don't know, sort of nagging you, that you had a different purpose? So that, what did you feel like, even though your adopted parents were fantastic? Did you
Yes,
always feel like there was something missing? But
yes.
did you feel like there was something missing that you needed to discover?
Yes, I did. I just, every time, and it's so odd and I've already brought this up when they say, "Where'd you get that smile?" And I would always think, gosh, I wish I knew. I just want to look like somebody. I wish somehow I could just see pictures of somebody that looks just like me, and every time I'd bring it up, and I didn't bring it up often. I knew that they were just not wanting to share anything with me, but it was always nagging at me. And then I got busy with raising my children, and
Right.
then I didn't really think about it much more, and then it would come back to me, and it's like, why don't I know who I am, you know? But
What would you
then
say to other people who want to find out who their biological family is? Now you didn't have too difficult of a time finding out, did you? I mean, it was fairly
no,
easy for you to locate them.
yes, I was pretty lucky. I contacted the Birth Angels of California online
Mm-hmm.
and gave them my birth date, the hospital that I was in, the time I was born, and my adopted parents' names. And they literally found out my information in like 2 weeks, that I was born
Wow.
Pamela Lee Hatfield. Yeah, yeah, that was a crazy moment.
What's interesting is your biological mom had another child and she named her Pamela, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why.
I
But
know you were saying you don't know why, but in my head, I can only think that maybe mom felt sort of badly giving you up and wanted another Pamela. I don't know. Could it be that?
yeah, it could be that. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Maybe she just wanted to have a little bit of a memory of me. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm hoping that maybe someday my half sister will make contact with me and open up, and then we can just talk about everything. That would be wonderful, and then there wouldn't be so many mysteries.
Yeah, that is too bad, and I hope that happens for you. But Bobby's children, you know, I'm sure some of them were afraid, like, "Uh-oh, here she comes for some inheritance." But you can't claim any inheritance, can you?
No, I think that was a big problem. I think they were worried about it, but I know that once you're adopted out, it's legal and binding. You have no rights to anybody else's money or family at all. So, um, I I just wanted to find my family. I just wanted to have more family and more love and all that. And I think if they weren't, rich and famous, that it might be a different story. I think if they were, middle class kids like me, it might have worked out a little bit better, you know?
Hmm. It's very interesting. What do you feel
Yeah.
now that you know and it's full circle? What would you tell other people who deeply want to find out where they're from? Should they absolutely all out go for it? Should they be prepared for what they find? I mean, what do you think?
Oh, I would tell anybody and everybody, go for it. And, it's a roller coaster ride. You're going to cry, you're going to laugh, you're going to be shocked. There's some people that never find their family, but I don't think anybody should be nervous about it. At least take that first step and, find a search angel. Now we have DNA, and I've got my two siblings that show that I'm their half sister. DNA is it's incredible, and I've got cousins now that I've never known, and they're so cool. I mean, it's just so neat to have. I have this one guy, his name's Bud, and he's like, I'm your 10th cousin, and I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. And he goes, this is great. And he was like, did you know that you're a descendant of the Hatfields and McCoys? And I said, no, I don't think so. I think I checked it out before. He goes, oh, yes, you are. And
Oh, that's cool. Wow.
yeah, I looked. It's like a great grandfather's brother, down that line. But that was really cool. So I'm gonna have to watch that movie again.
Oh, absolutely. And I love how you say it's about love. This is all about love, because I know that's what you're all about. I mean, you're an artist, and by that I say you're a writer. Writers are artists. Your dad was an artist. He was a musician. So look how much in common that you have with him.
Yes.
Again, the hardest part, though, I mean, you went through a lot when you found all this out, and you weren't really accepted all that well from some of the siblings, and it must have been scary, right? And gut wrenching. How did you feel at your lowest point when you were looking and they weren't quite as open?
Well, my lowest point was, oh, God, it's so hard to describe, because you're so nervous about finding your family, and then that possibility of rejection is just, it just makes you sick. And so, I've had my lows, and then I'm like, wait a minute, hello, I have my family. I have all
That's
the
right.
love that I have. I'm incredibly blessed. And if they don't want to reach out to me, it's fine. I've got my beautiful children. I even talked to you about my youngest son, Nick. He's a musician and guitarist, and his voice is incredible. I'm hoping he'll finish his album one day and get it produced. And so Bobby, didn't pass me his beautiful voice, but he sure gave a lot of it to my son. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you know what? The door's always open, as you like to say, right?
Yeah.
The door's always open for anybody who wants to reach out to you from both sides of your biological family. I think that's beautiful. Anything you want to tell our audience before we let you go about your book? Please, everybody, pick it up. It's very interesting. I was riveted reading the book. As I told you, my jaw dropped a few times in some of this. Anything else you'd like to share?
If you're adopted, get out there and find your birth family. You won't regret it. If you regret it a little bit, that's okay, because you're still going to know who you are. It's so important to know what your heritage is, where you come from. I mean, I'm Swedish. I had no idea. I'm 36% Swedish. I'm 33% Scottish. I'm 12% Irish, and so on. I thought I was Dutch, English, and Indian. So, I mean, my adoption records were way off. But anyway, yeah, I just hope that everybody that wants to search, just go ahead and do it, because you're not going to have anything less than you have right now, right?
Yeah, no, you'll absolutely grow to know who you are.
Yeah, and I would love it if people would buy my book. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, oh, it's a must, you guys. I'm telling you, when I say that my jaw dropped half the time when because I couldn't imagine putting myself in that situation. I would be nervous, I would be scared, I'd be excited, and you went through it all, and you came through to tell us all about it with a lot of love in your heart. What would you say to your dad right now, if you could? If he was alive when you found out and you were able to meet him, what would you say?
That I love you, and thank you for having me. Sorry. I'm a lot like my dad too, because all of the family and friends say he was so emotional. He'd just tear up on any little thing. But yeah, I would tell him that I loved him.
We have to end on that note because that's absolutely beautiful, right? That's so beautiful, Sheri. I so appreciate you being here and telling us your story and getting real about it and encouraging other people. See, you cry over it, you laugh over it, but you grew a lot over it, Sheri. So thank you. I love the fact that you're emotional. How could you not be? You've had quite a story.
Oh my gosh,
right?
I know. Yep. No, I am. I cry at commercials. It's just a joke. When the commercials come on and I know it's going to be a really touching one, my whole family's staring at me. They're waiting for me to tear up, and I usually do. I don't disappoint them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, I'm glad.
So
yeah, I'm glad you got your story out there because I know some of the half sibs weren't thrilled. But maybe if they even see this interview and hear how it's affected you, that they'll really understand because they know their story. You just didn't know yours until now, right? So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's been wonderful. Everybody, please pick up this book. My Birth Dad Was a Righteous Brother. My husband, by the way, loved The Righteous Brother. So he was leafing through this last night. I said, hey, I didn't finish it. Give me my book back. So, and then right. And then I started reading excerpts to a friend of mine because I was on the phone with her. And then my husband was stealing it from me. And then late at night, I'm like, hey, stop. It's that kind of book, you guys. So please pick it up.
Thank you.
My Birth Dad Was a Righteous Brother. Sheri, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening and watching and hearing her story, hearing Sheri's story, her adoption journey. I hope you pick up the book. And we look forward to having you back with us here next week on Deborah Kobylt Live. Bye-bye.